Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video we're gonna make a custom entity. It's a stone golem, and without wasting much time, let's start with some explanation. An entity, like other objects in Minecraft, needs a behavior and a resource pack. The behavior pack needs only one file, which is the entity file. This is where you add the components and initialize properties for the entity. The resource pack, on the other hand, has multiple files for the entity, and they are all attached to one file, which is the client entity file. This file links all the other files needed to render your entity in the game. If it's missing, you'll have a ghost entity. The files that the client entity needs are the geometry file, which is the entity's model, the texture file, the material. This uses the Minecraft shaders to render your entity. There are many to choose from. And the render controller, by far the most important. From the name you know why it handles which resources are used to render your entity. Without this, the entity will still be invisible. Other extra components to add are animation and animation controllers. One is the animations that can be played for the entity, and the other controls how it is played based. You can also add scripts, which are commands written on the client entity side. It's written in Mlang, and they allow dynamic behavior on the visuals, like adjusting speed of animation based on walking speed. One thing to note, as you make more and more entities, there's a naming convention for entities in the resource pack, which is adding the type of file in the name. So, a client entity file will be name.entity.json. A render controller will be name.render_controller.json, and you get the idea. With all that covered, let's start making this entity. I'm making a stone_golem because it was easy to model. We'll start with the behavior pack, create a folder called entities, and in it a file called stone_golem.json. Add the format version and the identifier. In here you have is_summonable, well set to true, so we can summon it using commands. Is spawnable will be false for now, because I don't want to have a spawn egg for it. And is experimental will be false, so the entity will be available without experimental features turned on. This entity will be empty most of the time, so to keep it valid, we'll add all the objects needed, which are component groups, components, and events. With this, the entity is rendered in the game, but it's invisible. Now we can start working on the resource pack. We'll first save the model and texture I made in Blockbench. The only difference from the block tutorial is that you create a Bedrock entity model, which gives you tools for animating your model. After making the model, you save the model in the model folder. Create a folder called entities in the models folder and save the geometry model there. And as for the texture, create a folder in the textures folder called entity and save it there. Back to VS Code, create a folder called entity and file, in that folder called stone_golem.entity.json. Don't forget your naming convention. In here we add the format version. You can choose between 1.8.0 or 1.10.0. I chose the first one. It's a client_entity file. And the important step here now is making sure the identifier of the client_entity is the same, the entity file in the behavior pack. In here, everything is written in the description. We'll start with the material. There's a list to choose from. So I chose an iron_golem for obvious reasons. We're setting the default material to be used, but you can also set different ones, different parts of the model. Next is the geometry. We'll set it to the stone_golem geometry identifier. For the textures, we'll set it to the path of the entity texture. unlike items and blocks which are saved in a dictionary. Each entity in the game has a reference to its own texture to use. The last files we'll be adding in this entity for now is the render_controller. To do that, we need to make it first. Create a folder in the resource pack called render_controllers. And a new file called stone_golem_do_render_controller.json. In here, add the format version. The type of file. And to start adding fields, you need to add the identifier, which is also the object name. So the object name will be controller.render.name of the entity. In our case, stone_golem. Add the colon and braces and we can start. The materials is a list and we only added one, so it's going to be all. Materials are set to material.default. It's default because we added it as default in the entity file. The geometry is geometry.default. And the textures is texture.default. With this set to add the render controller now, we copy the name of the object and add it to the list in the entity file. So in render controllers, we add this one. With all that done, the entity should now be rendered properly in the game. Heading back if I summon it TI. The model and textures are correct. Just one problem though. The entity has no physics, so we'll add only one component for now, which is the physics component. And in here, we'll set collision to true and gravity to true. If I punch it again, it should knock back. Well, that's a lot, and I hope you guys understand every bit of it. If you don't, the comment section is down there if you ask any questions, opinions, or give any requests. And for the previous comments from my other videos, I'm making those ideas to see if they work. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.